Well, Gina, thank you so much for having us here today. It is so cool. This is my first time up on the stage here at Playhouse.
Well, welcome to the jungle. Here we are at Playhouse Square, the Mimi, Ohio Theater, on the set of The Choir of Man, the first tour in the United States to open.
It's
right here at Playhouse Square.
It is so nice to see live theater in this arena district, this all of it, you know, on this stage right now. How does it feel for you? I mean, you're the one that made it happen.
Well, we made it happen. We have great audiences in Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, so we knew that we had an eager group who would be, you know, happy to come back to the theater. And we also have a great staff and, you know, team here at Playhouse Square. So this really has been a collective effort, but I will tell you, this feels so good. It feels so wonderful to be in the rhythm of our life, of planning for audiences and curtain times and, you know, opening up the venue and seeing the eyes of the audience as they arrive is just, it's such a wonderful payoff. First of all, you see this magnificent architecture, and then coming in to hear live music. When you first hear a song, a note, an instrument that's being played live and you're in the audience, it's a deeply emotional and wonderful experience.
After what we have all been through, and it seems like this show is just that right note, you know, to make people smile and to make you enjoy being here again and appreciate the music and the stage and all of it.
You know, The Choir of Man is absolutely the perfect way to begin your journey back to live events at Playhouse Square. It's a lot of fun. It's set in a pub. It is a celebration of music, everything from a traditional Broadway song to an Irish ditty, from Adele to Red Hot Chili Peppers. It is a chorus of 9 men and 4 musicians who are singing and playing this music, and it's 90 minutes, no intermission. It's really easy, and it is absolutely joyful.
Love it. We all need more joy in our lives right now.
We do, but I have to say, this seems like the most normal thing we have done in a year and a half, because as human beings, we're supposed to be together.
Yeah.
So when you come back together and you have that shared experience and you applaud, do these things we haven't done in so long, it just adds this vigor to your life and a spring to your step, and it's just wonderful to be here.
So good. Well, you know, in preparation for this, I was watching an interview that you did with my colleague Russ Mitchell.
Love Russ Mitchell.
I do too. And you guys were not on this stage, but you were here at Playhouse on stage, and you were talking right as you had taken this role. And he asked you the question, I don't know even if you would remember, what will happen over the next 18 months or so here? And I thought, watching it back today, wow, we all had no idea.
Right.
It's been a tough road for everybody, but particularly theater. And I think, you know, you can answer that not only here in Cleveland, but all across the country. I know you work very closely with folks on Broadway in New York as well. I mean, to have this period where everything stopped and no one saw it coming, what was that like? You
know, in some ways it was almost so painful you can't remember it, quite honestly.
You don't want to.
Yeah, you really don't want to remember it. But what I do remember is that for us, on March the 2nd of 2020, we announced our KeyBank Broadway Series, and we announced that we had the largest base of season ticket holders in North America. And 10 days later, we were shut down. Like, to go from that high to the abyss of not knowing how long this is going to go on or how long it's going to last. And then what came out of that was that, okay, this is canceled, but what about next month? And what about the month after that? And it just kept coming in waves. That through that time, we experienced 1,100 cancellations and postponements. So that was like death by 1,100 cuts. For us, we were refunding millions and millions of dollars. Mind you, most of that flows to the company, a small portion to us, but when people purchase tickets, that's an affirmation about what you do and an eagerness to be a part of it. And when you refund money, in our world, that's a sign of a failure. And so to keep reliving that horrid cut over and over and over again was just tremendously hard. Now I say that, of course, with tremendous respect for all the families who have really had tragic losses over the course of this year. this was our difficult journey about being in the entertainment business. But nonetheless, it was very difficult because we didn't know where it was going to stop, how would it end, and then it became clear that we had to consider, everyone had their role to play. We had to furlough staff, and that was a role to play, but that means we want you back, don't go away. We had our working staff who are now doing the jobs of, everyone at a faster rate. So we're on a speeding bullet train trying to get this work done. And then there are, the hundreds of employees that we had to lay off because we didn't have the events here that would have had them employed. So it was just very, very difficult in that sense. But there were tremendous joys about how our nonprofit mission could live throughout Northeast Ohio with our education programs. Every performance that we would have had here live, we converted to a virtual experience. Added master classes, learning plans and everything, rolled it out to the teaching community, and we served over 95,000 students. We've never served over 95, wow. Never even served half of that in the course of a regular year. So there were great joys and discoveries that really fueled us and continued to take us forward.
Is it good to have some of that certainty again, like you said, to be in the pattern of having a show here, getting it ready, but also looking ahead? I know The Lion King is going to be here before we know it.
You're exactly right. Come October 1st, The Lion King is going to open their national tour right here at the KeyBank State Theater. And the opening of that particular musical, it makes me cry any day of the week. When the sun rises, right? It's
we can all sing the song in our heads, yes.
That's right. Rafiki calls all the animals in from the kingdom. The symbolism of what that actually means now, it makes me, teary to think about it, but it's going to be wonderful, highly emotional, and a tremendous privilege that of all the places that the Disney company, the Disney theatrical group could have gone to do this work, because everyone needs to rehearse, they asked if they could come here because they said, we want to be at Playhouse Square. We want to be in Cleveland, Ohio. It's the best place to do this work. And so, like I said, it's a wonderful privilege to be able to do that, but it's going to be here quickly.
Yeah, it is. And that's so exciting to have them here. And I think maybe to put a feather in your cap, a lot of that has to do with you and how you have helped build our reputation for theater with this huge Broadway, season ticket holder base. How does that look now as you head into your third year on this job?
Well, that's really nice of you to say and very generous of you to say, but I have to say that what we celebrate here on stage every day is the collaborative art form of the performing arts. It takes everyone doing what they're good at doing to make any performance enriching and valuable, and we live that even in an administrative way. So what we're able to accomplish is really a tribute to the entire organization and mostly the audiences in Northeast Ohio, the best in the country. And we are nothing without an audience. We need people sitting in these seats. And they have proven to us time and time again that they're adventuresome, they love the experience, there's nothing else like this in their lives. And through this period of time, over 34,000 of our season ticket holders just stayed with us and said, hang on, we'll be there when you are back up and running because we want to be at Playhouse Square. That means the world to us.
I'm one of them. I am just so excited, to be back. Yes, because it was like, when will we get to? And to have some of those answers crystallizing now as the world reopens is just so great. Let's talk about your journey a little bit. You grew up in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. When was your first interest in the arts or in theater, or how did it start?
I always loved the arts. I remember actually two distinct experiences growing up. My family didn't have any resources, and the Muni Theater in St. Louis is which Russ Mitchell and I actually discussed since we were both from St. Louis. Yep. It's this fabulous 10,000 seat outdoor venue in St. Louis, and like the last 5 rows are free seats. Cool. And I can remember my mom taking us there, and it didn't matter to me that I was sitting in the last row. I was so excited to be there. I wanted to be there every night. I just loved it. I loved the music, I loved seeing the audience, I loved the expansiveness of it. And in that particular instance, because it was outdoors, you could see the stars, and and it was a very dreamy and wonderful experience. I also remember going as a Girl Scout, because I grew up as a Girl Scout as well. I remember going to see a show in St. Louis, and I had on my Girl Scout uniform, my sash, my uniform, my beanie, and I remember at the end, I was so excited that I wanted to throw my beanie in the air, and my troop leader said, no. Okay, I was a little too obedient. I'm less obedient today than I was then, but I was just so thrilled with the audience reaction and to be a part of something like that. And it really made me think about how I could have a life in the arts. I wasn't a performer, so I didn't know that this was possible, and I actually didn't know the administrative side even existed. But something I was an art major, my undergraduate degree was an art major, but it led me to finding a small renovated theater in Kansas City, which is where I began my journey, which led me eventually to Cleveland, Ohio, and the chance to just grow up here. For the last 37 years, as this organization grew, I had the chance to just be a part of that growth and the pride and the accomplishments that we all have shared over the years.
It is awesome to see that you started here as an intern.
Yes.
And now you're running the place. You're the boss lady.
The thing is, when I walked into these theaters, and at that particular time, only the Mimi, Ohio and the KeyBank State were in operation, and everyone actually thought we were all done. That's all we needed, 2 theaters. But I was so enchanted with this that I knew this is where I wanted to be. They said to me at that time, the fellow who was the CEO said, we're $1 million in debt. We're not really sure this is going to work. I can only pay you for 3 months. There are no guarantees. You really need to think about this. And when I got home, I called him and said, I'll see you Monday. This is where I want to be. I just knew it.
Was it like a leap of faith?
It was really about listening to what's inside of you, because when it's the right fit, you know it. And also when it's the wrong fit, you also know it as well. But this was just, to me, it felt so right. I loved the concept of saving these theaters. I loved what that meant. I loved the story that the wrecking ball was out front at one point in our history. This is within 96 hours from becoming a parking lot, and to see what has emerged here. Boy, someone who had that kind of chutzpah and that kind of belief was something I wanted to be a part of.
It is an incredible story, and you are a part of it. I mean, you've been a part of it. How did the Broadway series, and I know you get credit for some of what it has become, how did you know that was a key, or how to sort of eventize this space so that we had Northeast Ohioans here and using it and bringing it back to life?
Well, I'll share with you that that's not something I invented. Cleveland has had a long, long history of being an important stop for any tour that was out there, and for any show that's produced. We have fabulous resident companies here at Playhouse Square who actually are living the art every day, producing it, building those costumes, building those sets. And so the combination of all this really means that Cleveland has a culturally engaged community. It's always been that way. The Hannah Theater years and years ago, that was run by a fellow named Milt Krantz, was like the primo stop on a tour. What we had the chance to do here at Playhouse Square is to take that history and figure out how to build on it. There was another presenter actually of Broadway, which we took it over in 1990, because what we realized was that everything that happened at Playhouse Square, if it was a good experience or a bad experience, was still in the eyes of the community, Playhouse Square, and nor should they have to know any difference, right? Mm-hmm. But we realized that we needed to be able to control the experience and control the booking and be able to deliver what this community actually deserved. We took that over, and in 5 years we had built it from 6,000 season ticket holders to 14,000 season ticket holders, and then expanded to 2 weeks, and then expanded to 3 weeks. And I can tell you, when we expanded to 3 weeks, in the business, in New York City, people were saying to me, are you sure? Are you sure that's a good idea? Well, we've studied it. We actually do think it's a good idea, and it has turned out to just be what defines us as an institution. though there are many great opportunities, by the way, to see performances at Playhouse Square.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come, sort of, and they have.
They did, and they have, and they will again.
So you have also studied urban planning here at CSU. So I think it's interesting to hear you, in some other interviews I've read, hear you talk about this place as a district and you know, Lumen being a new part of that. I'm sure COVID has maybe temporarily interrupted some of those plans, but what do you hope for this area? I mean, if we're talking, once COVID's in the rear view, once we're in this 5-10 years from now, I mean, what do you think could be the next step of what you think of when you think Playhouse Square?
When all of us think about Playhouse Square and the next leg of the journey, to me is full of opportunity and excitement, because this year, this 21-22 season is actually the centennial season of the historic venues.
Wow.
This stage upon which we now are sitting opened 100 years ago. And now to have the opportunity to sort of emerge again, back to life, under the same circumstances as when these theaters were built, because we were coming out of a pandemic, a world war, and a financial collapse, by the way, at that point in time, you can see about, we want to be able to honor the history of how we arrived here, the shoulders upon which we stand of everyone who made these big, brave, bold moves along in history to invent Playhouse Square, to rescue Playhouse Square, and to now take it forward, because the opportunity is for us to imagine what's on the horizon. What's going to be next? What is it that we can't even see today that is going to be our reality in 5 to 10 years? This is going to be the entertainment district that brings global recognition to Playhouse Square and to Northeast Ohio. And all of the many, many ways our dream of live, work, play is going to only accelerate exponentially as we go forward.
So let's talk a little bit more about you as well. Do you have anything on your bucket list over the next 5-10 years or beyond?
You know, there's always a lot on my bucket list. You know, on my bucket list professionally, I think about Playhouse Square and how we can create Playhouse Square as building on it being an engaging district that you come to and experience whether you have a theater ticket or not. Because when those visitors are here from town, or you want to do something fun on a Friday night, just come down here and walk around. Have dinner on any of these patios that are in and around in the theater district, the entertainment district that we have. How can we begin the engagement at the sidewalk and create that experience, and then that becomes a, you know, a feeder system for what occurs, you know, inside of the theater as well. There's so much ahead for us to just imagine about how shows might occur. What is an actual stage? Because stage has been a geographic location until this past year, where we had a virtual stage and served tens of thousands of students that we would never have served before. The opportunity to now see this through a whole new lens, to think about how we can make Playhouse Square continue to build on being an audience-centric mission. What's best for the audience? How does that take us forward, and how does that inform us about what decisions we're going to make? I can't wait to see what we come up with.
How about your personal bucket list? Anything on there?
Well, my personal bucket list, you know, because my name is Gina Vernaci, I've been trying to figure out how to speak Italian. So I've been listening to tapes, wondering if someday I could, you know, spend some time in Italy. I think that would be great fun, to just be able to walk around and, of course, eat and drink my way across the boot somehow. I would love to do that. I'd love to spend time with my family in St. Louis, in Detroit, in Washington, D.C. And the thing I actually mostly love doing is just driving around the countryside with my husband, you know, seeing what's out there, stopping somewhere for breakfast or lunch. And now as we go forward, just thinking about how we now have the brain space to, coming out of this last year and a half, how you encounter those experiences and how much more that means to you than it ever would have been. You don't know what you've got until it's gone, as they say. And since it was taken away or put on the shelf for a year, I think everything is going to be a moment to savor for all of us.
That's so true. Just to be out in the world again feels good.
It sure does.
Tell me about your support system. You mentioned your husband. Who's there for you?
Well, I will tell you, my husband and my family in a very big way. You know, I have my Playhouse Square family, which is a large, expansive family, including our 2,000 Redcoats who are volunteers, including everyone who works on the stages at Playhouse Square. Everyone comes together to make this happen. That's a huge support system for me. On the personal side of my life is my husband. And though he and I didn't have children, because we met up rather late in the game, we have 30 nieces and nephews, so we're the cool aunt and uncle.
Yeah, extra cool.
And so that's great fun. And they're, you know, all ages from, you know, just turned 1 year old to 50 years old in my large Italian family. So I love that. I love staying in contact with nieces and nephews and find out what's happening in their life. That to me fuels me to, you know, see what their interests are, and, you know, and also just helps you stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely. What keeps you up at night? Anything you worry about?
Well, you know, there was a lot that was keeping me up at night for a while, quite honestly. In today's world, there's so much going on, and I've said to the team here that as we restart, it's not going to start with a trickle, it's going to start with an avalanche. So we have to be prepared for the avalanche, and the avalanche actually has started. So how we just sort of help everybody stay, you know, afloat to keep up with all the work that now is coming our way. And mind you, that's all joyful, and it's wonderful to be solving the problems that are actually in your job description. We're all thankful for that. But just how to address the volume of the workload that is upon us is something that I do think about. How you support everyone to make sure they're taking vacations. You know, take some time and take care of yourself. We have to remind ourselves of that, because we had to put all of our own feelings and our own needs had to get pushed like way down here, because all of us had so many things and so many people to tend to during this time. And now's the time to take care of yourself. And I feel like everyone is, but I just want to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah, that's really important. For you, you know, you have served, you've worn a lot of hats in your 30-some years here. What advice would you give to someone, you know, particularly maybe a young person getting started in the arts, or a young woman in the arts? Like, how do you see things around you and build in your role, or start to take on more responsibility in one spot?
I would have a lot of advice for someone starting out in this business, or any business, quite frankly. Be willing to start at the bottom. You know, when I started, again, no guarantee of a future. I can pay you for 3 months, and I was going to do whatever it took. I carried bus tub of ice, I fetched cups of coffee, I took minutes in meetings, like whatever it took to be a part of this, because this is where I wanted to be. And then to be eager to be helpful. How can I help you? Because if I'm going to help you, that's going to also help me learn more. So think about not what someone can give you, but think about what you have to give and contribute, and how you can contribute to the cause, contribute to the mission. And the most important thing is never give up. You know, over the time I've been here, other job offers have come my way, and at the end of the day, and some of them were pretty tempting, this gave me such a tremendous sense of home. And the family of who's here with me and has grown with me over the years, and the new generations that come in, that's so exciting, and it fuels me so tremendously. And I'm so proud of what Cleveland has here and what we've had the chance to be a part of, that it was just something that I didn't want to leave. I wanted the home, and I wanted the opportunity, and I was willing to do whatever it took to try and help it move ahead. So you can't give up. You have to, you get knocked off your horse, everybody does, and you just have to dust yourself off, find the things that are positive, and focus on those things, and let the other things fall aside, and then figure out how you moved into the next phase. And sometimes there are ways that I had to find a way to just go stimulate my brain in a new way. Like, I went to Cleveland State University and had a master's in urban studies. I exercised my brain over there in a way that I wasn't here, but that actually helped energize me along the way. This past month I was honored with an honorary doctorate from Baldwin-Wallace University, something I never would have imagined would be on the horizon for me. It was a great, great privilege. My academic career was a disaster until I got to Cleveland State and then had this honor from Baldwin-Wallace. So you just can't be swept up in the undertow of the negativity. They're autobiographies because you're writing the story. So keep writing your story. Don't put the pen down. Keep pushing ahead. Don't close the book.
I love that. What's your favorite part of your job right now?
Every day when I wake up, every day when you come into this institution, to walk into these theaters, you step into a new river. There's a new flow. There's a new set of opportunities. There is the unexpected every day, and you have to problem solve in real time with a lot of extremely smart people who are around me, much smarter than me, by the way, because that's what keeps it all afloat, is you have to let everybody in and take in everything that they've got to offer and figure out how to problem solve this thing that you couldn't possibly have imagined.
Yeah, it sounds like in terms of leadership advice, that seems like one of your strengths, or one of the things that you aim to do, is get everybody involved in the process. Is that sort of the secret to your sauce here, is that everybody knows their role and can execute?
The secret to the sauce is being open, and the secret to the sauce is listening. I will say, quite honestly, there were times, and even times in the last year and a half, that you had to find the headspace to listen, because it wasn't easy, because there was so much in my head in that moment. And there were times I got knocked off the horse, but you just have to get back in it. You have to keep trying. You can't be daunted by a failure or 2 or 3 or 10 or 100. You have to just keep going forward.
And stay excited about what's next.
Yeah, and stay excited, because you can either walk in the shade of a cold side of the street, or you can walk on the sunny side of the street. I've chosen to always walk on the sunny side of the street. That is in my nature. It's where I like to be. And I have actually always found that when things aren't going right, whether it's in your career, particularly in your career, where this is a business where there are a lot of people, right, want to be involved. And it's just like in your business, right?
Yep.
And if you let your frustrations guide you, then that's a culling of the herd. So don't be guided by those frustrations. Be guided by your vision. Be guided by what's in your heart, by what you know is right, and you'll find the solution for it.
You've just always had that belief of what could be. Mm-hmm. And seeing what has become now, do you feel pleased? Do you feel proud?
Beyond my wildest dreams. I am so proud, because it's against the odds that I'm here. Coming out of a challenging childhood, raised by my siblings and I raised by a single mom whose earnings were well below the poverty level, leaving for college on a cattle truck with my friends to try and figure out how to pay for it. It's against the odds that I'm here. I had no plan. I was an academic disaster. But nonetheless, I knew that I had to figure out my way, and I had to figure out a path, and that there was no one to blame for the hardships. And even if there were, that's not productive. I had to figure out a pathway out. And to find it in the arts, and to let that sort of be a guide about the thing that is, intellectually interesting. Follow those intellectual curiosities in your life. Follow your dreams, because you can make them a reality. I am an absolute example. That's what I want to say. I'm an absolute example that following your dreams is a real reality.
Are you going to write this autobiography? Physically write it down? Because I think we'd all like to read it.
Well, I'll keep you in the loop on that one.
Or you could perform it, I guess. You could write a stage play out of it.
Well, that's awfully generous of you because, as I said before, I'm not a performer. I'm just someone who found my way into doing this. I actually remember the first time I gave a curtain speech. I walked off stage and I was just shaking like a leaf because I actually thought I was going to fall down between here and there, walking off stage. And now it feels real good because, people just, you want to talk to people. But, you learn a lot. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is so important. I find that a lot of the things that I do best are the things that actually innately make me most uncomfortable. Speaking in front of audiences, writing, leading to some, even though, the Italian in me was always willing to be in charge, the actual idea of leading, I feel like I've had the chance to grow in that. It's had the chance to teach me a lot about myself. When you listen to others, I have learned so much from everyone that I work with. That to me, every day you walk in here, it's a master class in something. It's a master class in business. It's a master class in artistic excellence. It's a master class in vision and planning. It's a master class in collaboration. It is so interesting and so stimulating and rewarding. There are challenges, but the rewards far outweigh the challenges.
Well, it's been really interesting to learn more about you and your story, so thanks.
It's whenever you're doing the right thing and it's your groove and 37 years evaporate, you really know that this is what you're supposed to do. And the way you find the thing you're supposed to do is to be open to the experience. Step through the door that you didn't know was there. Take a chance on yourself. That's actually, I think, the most important thing to tell someone young coming into a business.
Yeah.
Take a chance on yourself. If you show up for an interview and you're expecting the employer to take a risk on you when you actually haven't done it, that for you, do it for yourself. Step out of your comfort zone. Like I said, follow what's in your heart. That it can do so much for you.
I love how you say that because I think people will really resonate with that idea of you can feel when it feels right, like you did when you first got here, and also when it doesn't feel right.
Yes, when it doesn't feel right, you feel like you just consumed a cannonball, right? It just hangs inside of you like, oh,
yeah,
that seemed right, but it really wasn't. Conversely, when it's the right decision, you fly like an eagle.
You still wake up excited to come to work the next day.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm very, very lucky to do what I do.
Cleveland is lucky to have you doing it too.
Well, I will tell you that having the bragging rights for what we do here in Cleveland is also tremendous fun. To go to New York City, and I said when we expanded to the third week, when I go to New York and they would say, what's going on in Cleveland? And I'm like, that's just how we roll. We build it and they will come. And this is fortunately a glorious, place to show up at.
Yeah. Oh, it's such an experience.
Yeah, it is. And that's actually as important as the show, because shows will change and shows come and go. And there are grand moments, certainly, that we have the chance to experience. But what we can control is the experience of what it means to arrive here, be in these magnificent buildings, be a part of the scene. That is the part, that side of the proscenium is what we actually have in our control. And it's fun to think about what you can do to make that an experience and to stage that. It's about like staging your comeback. How we as a group can think about, again, the audience-centric, like what does the audience need? Because you fill that need and it's going to feed this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today, Gina. I really appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you at the theater.
Yes, you too.